Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Abstract Essay, where ideas take shape, thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. One of his advocacy where East meets West, functional medicine practitioner and a traditional Chinese medicine doctor. Other than Mr. John Meters.
Hi
Welcome.
there.
Yes, welcome, Mr. John on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Absolutely, Daniel. First, I want to thank you. I'm really happy to be here. I like your interviewing style. It's really awesome. You really participate with the speakers. So I really enjoyed that. I've been looking forward to this. And so I want to talk a little bit. I have a book coming out in a few months. So I kind of jumped the gun a little bit here.
Yes, got it.
It's called the working title at least, is called Never, Ever, Ever Give Up. And it's really the story of what happened to me in December of 2023, where I passed out at a local grocery store, went into emergency. They took me in. They did an EKG and a bunch of CAT scans and you name it. And I saw it was really a busy night. Usually this little local hospital is not very busy, but this particular night, all 11 rooms were taken. The poor doctor looked like a deer in the headlights. There was one older nurse, thank goodness, that was taking him by the arm and moving him through to tell him which rooms to go to. And so I saw the physician's assistant come up to him, and she showed him something, and they both looked up at me, stared at me, and then he looked at her and shook his head no. I thought, oh, okay, I guess I'm all right. It's all good. So I got my medical records, and I was looking through them, and I found out that I was in what's called atrial flutter. And with atrial flutter, the different chambers of the heart are not beating in unison, which is a really bad thing. It's like in the old car, if you didn't have the distributor on correctly, the car wouldn't run. Well, it's kind of the same thing with atrial flutter. And the lower chambers of my heart were beating at 72 beats a minute. The upper chambers of my heart were beating at 288 beats a minute. So that's 4-1. That's not a good thing. But they didn't say a word to me in the hospital. Now, I know they were busy, but I would think someone could say, excuse me, sir, your EKG had an abnormality. We don't have time to go into it with you, but you should see your cardiologist soon. But they didn't. If I hadn't found that out, I wouldn't have known what I knew. I didn't feel good. And I know my chest felt weird, but this came on rather suddenly. So I found a really good cardiologist, just a really, really, really bright guy, got along with him great. And he suggested I have what's called a catheter ablation. And with that, so what happens with the atrial flutter is different cells of the heart that are not supposed to be sending out messages start sending out messages. And so the catheter ablation, they go up through the groin with a wire into the heart. And it's amazing. I must have had 40 sensors on me. I mean, I had, when you get an EKG, you have 12. My entire body was covered with sensors, and the room was filled with technicians. So anyway, they go in, and it took them hours to find all the rogue cells and ablate them or kill them. Well, that's awesome. So I came out and I felt great. I mean, right after the surgery, I felt so much better. The problem is, with older people in particular, if they're under anesthesia for a long period of time, they can develop partial lung collapse or atelectasis. And so I went home feeling good. My son was home from school. We were watching a movie, a really bad movie, by the way. And I'm sitting there, and slowly it's getting harder and harder and harder to breathe. And finally, and I didn't want to go back to the ER, but finally I told my wife, I can't breathe. We've got to go in. And so they drove me to a good hospital with a good cardiac unit. And it was amazing, Daniel. All the way there, I was singing this song to myself. Um, and it's a song by one of my favorite songwriters. He was really popular in the 70s and 80s, a fellow named Warren Zevon. Now, Warren Zevon was David Letterman's favorite musician, and before Zevon died, they did an entire show just devoted to his music. Well, Zevon was diagnosed with lung cancer, fought it for quite a while, and then finally his doc said, "Hey, dude, I got bad news. You're just about done for." So Zevon got all of his favorite musician buddies, Bruce Springsteen, anybody you can think of, and they got together and recorded this one last album. And for some reason, as I'm driving or being driven to the ER, I'm singing this song. The shadows are falling and I'm running out of breath. Keep me in your heart for a while. And I just kept singing that over and over again. So I got to the hospital. They immediately admitted me. I had congestive heart failure and pneumonia, which is not a good thing for a 72-year-old person. But I got great care, stayed there for several days, 4 days, and they said, "Okay, you can go now. You're all well." And I said, "Well, do you have any guidance?" And they said, "No, you're fine." So I, practicing functional medicine and running labs all day long, ran a bunch of relevant and pertinent labs on myself, and my heart was tremendously inflamed, which makes sense. They were just up there digging around in it. But the inflammation could easily have killed me at any point because it was very, very bad, very, very high. So fortunately, with my background in functional medicine and traditional Chinese medicine, I was able to come up with supplements and herbs to rectify the problem pretty quickly. And so I went from nearly dying to getting misdiagnosed at the ER to having a courageous person just do a great job with my heart to almost dying again to getting heroic work done in the hospital to them kind of throwing me out on my own. And to me, part of that story is why it's so important to look at medical issues from a multi-positional standpoint. Again, I do functional medicine to look at conditions. I do traditional Chinese medicine to look at conditions. And combining those, I mean, I can't tell you, it's the yin and yang of the whole picture. And so I highly recommend that you don't stick to just one point of view. I tell everybody, if your doctor gives you a bad diagnosis, go get a second opinion. Then get a third opinion from someone in a completely different field. It could be your minister. It could be an acupuncturist. It could be a chiropractor, but make sure it's someone with a completely different outlook. And so I was very fortunate in that I had been practicing these things. I started doing Tai Chi and Qigong in the 1970s. I taught for many, many years. I then started doing herbal medicine in the 70s, went back to get my acupuncture license in the 90s, and then discovered functional medicine. And Daniel, I got to tell you, I went to this class by a guy named Jake Fratkin. I didn't even want to go. Someone I knew kind of dragged me to this 2-day class, and it blew my mind. Jake Fratkin, who was a practitioner of Oriental medicine, was teaching functional medicine lab values. And I immediately saw how powerful this was, because unlike traditional Western medicine, which is very symptom-based and condition-based and disease-based, both functional medicine and traditional Chinese medicine are always looking for the root cause of disease. Like someone comes in with a migraine. Well, of course, we want to help them get out of pain. But why do they have a migraine? There are many causes for a migraine, and just throwing drugs at it won't get you to the problem, won't get you to the root of the problem. So that's kind of how this all came about. But the real point of my book and the story of the book is, as I was lying in bed, hooked up to all of these antibiotics and monitors and smelling the smell of disinfectant and getting great care from the nurses there. It was really a godsend. But as I'm lying there, it suddenly dawned on me, I'm not done yet. My purpose, my purpose for being alive has not been fulfilled. And I was very clear about that purpose. It's to end suffering. And anything I can do in any small way to deliver those living from suffering, or those dead too, anybody, from suffering, that's my job. And I had not fulfilled it. And so I made a promise. Now, I'm very blessed. I have studied with several masters of intention. Master Peter Ralston, who I apprenticed to for over a decade, is the most pristine contemplation teacher I've ever seen. And his entire program is about creating intention and carrying through. I also was certified by Tony Robbins in the 1980s. And one of the favorite quotes from Robbins is, "The quality of your questions determines the quality of your life." And that's always stuck with me. So as I'm lying in the hospital bed, I said, how am I going to inspire people out of my story? And I made a goal that within 120 days, I would completely turn my health around. Now, I had let myself get into a very, very ill state of being. My blood sugars were too high, I had diabetes. My heart was obviously in trouble. I had multiple infections. So anyway, it was not a good time. And I said, I have 120 days. If I can turn this around in 120 days, then anybody can. Because I was 72 years old, and then soon, during that 128 days, turned 73. And Daniel, I got to tell you, I was even amazed. In 4 months, I was no longer diabetic. My other blood tests that were out of range were fine. My heart was back in perfect rhythm. And more importantly to me, in 4 months, I doubled my strength. Now that's crazy because I'd worked out for years, not always, but, on and off. And my strength had kind of plateaued over about the last 5 years, from about 65 into my early 70s. Well, I set out on a quest. I studied everything I could get my hands on in terms of supplements, in terms of strength training regimens, etc. And literally every single exercise except one, I doubled in 4 months. Now, that one that I didn't double, it took about another month, but still 4 months to completely turn my health around. And so my goal is to help others, to teach others, to be an example for others that, if you're alive, you can turn it around. There's someone that knows how to deal with your condition. So anyway, that's kind of how I got here, I guess. That's kind of a long-winded story, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you, Mr. John, for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world.
I love the clapping back there.
Yes. So, Mr. John, beyond the motivational poster of what does never, never, ever give up truly mean to you on a practical level?
Well, on a practical level, it keeps me in line. A lot of healers forget that they, have to put their own, it's like they say on an airplane, put your oxygen mask on first and then put it on your kids. And I was putting the oxygen mask on everybody else and completely ignoring my health. So I started doing the cooking. I had done it before, but I had abdicated. And I came back and started doing all the cooking. I started drinking 4 different types of juices a day. I started taking half a dozen supplements that I researched very, very carefully. One thing I had to do is I had to get my testosterone up, and I didn't want to do testosterone itself. So I found 10 different supplements that had pretty good research, 4 of them very strong research, showing increases in testosterone. And my testosterone doubled during that 4 months. And so that gave me the strength, the physical strength, the emotional strength to carry through. And so now I have these reminders all around me. Daniel, growing up, I was a high school athlete and, did lots of stuff. And I always hated the D word, discipline. I just didn't like it. And so rather than talk about discipline, I talk about ritual. So my life now is a ritual. I go through the day, I do very specific things every day. There's a book called The Morning Miracle that I highly suggest, that has what they call the Savers program. It takes only a few minutes to go through and plan your day and assign your commitments and create your intention, and then to go forward. So I live a life of tremendous ritual, but not discipline, just ritual. So that was my key, was I've got to make this into a daily ritual, and not one or two or three times per week. So I asked the co-author of the three books, one's out, one's being published any day now, and one's coming out in a few months. Her name is Dr. Catherine Black, and she lives about a quarter of a mile away from me. And so she comes over at 5:30, walks her dog over, little Opie. He hangs out with our four dogs during the day, and Catherine and I go to the gym, and we do that 5 days a week. And so that's the other piece. Along with the ritual, we all know that if we have a cohort or a workout partner or whatever we want to call it, that we are going to be much, much more successful in our endeavors. And so now I'm back working full time. I love my work. I love combining functional medicine with traditional Chinese medicine. Literally, people are kind of blown away. My wife, who does sports medicine, is the acupuncturist for the San Francisco 49ers football team. She does international rugby events, etc. And she gets referrals the day after she treats people, because they come in, sore, in pain, broken, and she'll fix them. So the next day when they're feeling good, they will call their friends and refer her. Well, the weird thing, Daniel, is that I get my referrals before people even leave. Now, I'm treating difficult gynecological problems, neurological problems, cardiology, diabetes. So I certainly have not provided a cure for these people, but they are so impressed with our process of actually doing our examination and history, which is initial appointment is very long. It's a couple hours, and we blow them away. There are like 10 different things you can see just on someone's fingers and hands that can tell you if they're having a heart infection, etc. And so to me, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed to be able to do this work and touch people in whatever small way I can contribute.
Is there a difference between not giving up and being stubborn or refusing to pivot? How do you know when you're being resilient versus just being stubborn,
Man,
Mr.
that's a
John?
great question. It's a great question. To me, it arises from creating intention. So you're going to have a vision for your life. Now, within that vision, you don't have to know how you're going to get there. I took over as the president of an acupuncture college a few years ago when my mentor died, and people said, "What are you going to do? You don't know how to administer a college. You've never done this. You're not an academic or someone that's ever run a college." And I said, "I don't know. I'm going to practice traditional Chinese medicine, principles of moving the qi, of seeing exactly the lay of the land. And I have the intention that it will work, so it'll work." So I wasn't stubborn in that it had to be a particular way. And that was the same thing with my working out. I tried multiple ways. I knew that I needed to get healthy to serve people. So I guess there could be some stubbornness there, but I see that as creating intention. Now, how I got there, it didn't matter to me. It really didn't. Diet, I went back in. I've been teaching dietary things for decades and decades, but I started all over with the eyes of the Zen mind, the beginner's mind. And I said, okay, let's throw it all out and see what the research shows. Supplements. I've been giving supplements for decades. I said, let's throw it out. Let's go back to the drawing board and let's see what the research is currently showing. So I did create the intention to improve my health so that I could help others and write the book as an inspiration. but I was absolutely not stubborn or rigid about how I was going to go about it, because I changed course many, many times. I tried working out in the afternoons because it was more convenient. Ha! No way that was going to happen. I tried different diets. I tried getting food delivered, but it wasn't the same thing. It wasn't the same quality. So the power of intention does not cause one to be stubborn. It just means you have a purpose. You're going to do that. You're going to create that and do it however you can.
Can you think of a time when giving up on a specific path was actually the key to ultimate achieving your larger goal? How does that fit into his
Oh, absolutely.
philosophy?
Absolutely. It's similar to what I was just saying in that, I have a great idea. I'm gonna do a particular thing. I'm gonna do certain podcasts. And then I get into it and I see that it's not fruitful. But it's not from fear. That's what I always have to ask myself is, am I changing gears? Am I running away from something? Or am I moving toward my vision? And that to me is a big, big key. Now, when we start out on whatever our project is, for you doing podcasts, for me becoming a practitioner of Chinese medicine and functional medicine, we all have huge roadblocks. The key is usually we know what they're going to be before we start out. Is it time? Is it money? Is it family? And so we can generally know what the problems are before we even start, right? Yeah, we got a big wide river that we have to ford. Okay, well, let's allow for that. And so to me, again, I change course many, many times, but always with the idea that there's a final purpose, which I have committed myself to. And that really is what always drives me and carries me forward. Hey, I mean, I want to give up. Lots of times I want to give up. And sometimes I do for a day, 2 days. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute. Now I'm off purpose. And then I have to correct. My teacher, Peter Ralston, who, by the way, was the world martial arts champion in 1978, which is why I started studying with him, not knowing where it was going to take me in terms of contemplation. And when he would be working with a class, he would sit behind a podium and I would assist him. And he had a big sticky note on there. And all it said was, I renew my commitment to do it now. So when he screwed up, he didn't spend any time going, oh, poor me, I screwed up. Oh, what am I going to do? No, he just immediately came back on purpose, on track with what he was teaching, on that particular day. And that stuck with me. I renew my commitment to do it now. The quality of my life is determined by the quality of my questions. And what can I contribute to the world today? Right. So those are kind of what drive me.
Mr. John, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my Abstract Essay is already in fifth season, Abstract Poetry in second season, and my Book 1-1 review in fifth season too, Comedy 1-1 in second season, and my Food 101 in fifth season as well.
Wow, you
Go.
stay busy.
Yes, busy, busy always, Mr.
Yeah.
John. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in fourth season, as well as Movie 101, Review Music 101, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its second season.
Oh, I'm
Please
going to have to
listen.
check out several of those. Looks good.
please, please, please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. John, how has your definition of success evolved through the times you have persevered?
Well, there are several ways I define success, actually. I mean, to me, success is achieving or creating what you say you want to create. To me, it has nothing to do with money necessarily. I mean, if you want to have X amount of money, that's fine. Then go ahead and do that. If you want to work with indigenous people out in the rainforest, great. I'll send you supplies, right? So it's whatever to me, it's whatever drives you, motivates you, is a vision strong enough to move you toward it. Yeah, so that's kind of it for me.
Interesting, Mr. John. And lastly, ultimately, if never, 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 ever give up, it's not a guarantee of success, then what is a real reward?
That's a great question, isn't it? I think it was Mark Twain again who said the two most important days in your life are the day that you were born and the day that you realized why, right? So, and the samurai used to have these discussions, these kind of arguments. If you die trying to carry out the task for your daimyo, is that okay? And generally they said no. Death is not an excuse. You just have to do it. Now, anyway, it's an interesting debate, but my vow was to end suffering. I have not achieved that, and I may very well not achieve it in this lifetime. I don't know, but I'm going to keep working at it because that's my purpose.
Mr. John, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And looking forward for that book. So can you please invite our listeners to support your upcoming book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you doing right now?
Well, I have a podcast series that's going to start airing at the beginning of December, and I'd love to have your listeners join me.
Definitely. What's the title of your podcast, Mr. John?
The Balancing Point.
The Balancing Point. Yes, people, I support Mr. John Letters because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books to come, more and more empowering episodes of the podcast itself. So, Mr. John, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, Daniel, thank you. It's been a pleasure. More
to come, people. See you soon.